You're listening to Morning Edition on 89.3 WFPL. I'm Bill Burton. Eugenics, the long discredited and scientifically inaccurate theory that states humans can be improved through social engineering, is the topic of a new book that focuses on its effects on education. The author of that book, An Illusion of Equity, The Legacy of Eugenics in Today's Education, is Berea College's Wendy Zagre-Warren. She joins us to discuss the topic. Wendy, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here.
How did eugenics become intertwined with education?
That's a great question. As far as I know, it happened because of large-scale testing. And the goal of eugenicists to show that the people who were the leaders of nations, who were largely white and largely wealthy, were the people who were destined to take those roles. Eugenics was seen as a science, and it was taught as a science in universities in England and in Germany and in the United States. And part of the way to be seen as a science was to use a statistical model and collect lots of data and use that as a way of proving what they wanted to prove, which is that people that the Germans called Aryans were actually farther evolved than other groups of people.
Your book focuses on education reform and specifically standardized testing. How would you address the potential bias in standardized testing?
Yeah, that's a very complicated story, and it took a whole book to tell. So I can say a little bit about that. In that, the statistical model that created the testing was created little by little. Again, the statistics were used to try to make this more accepted as a science. And so the model that was created at the beginning is still the same basic testing model that's used today. Of course, there have been tweaks along the way, and there's been changes in interpretation of the score's meaning, but the basic model is much the same. And the ideology behind it is what I come to toward the end of the section of the book that talks about each section of large-scale testing and how each section is put together. And as I was discovering this, I was reading how, one aspect of how a test is put together, and each aspect, my jaw just dropped because it seems so unobjective and so unscientific.
With what you've learned, what do you offer as an alternative to standardized testing?
This is my favorite question because the question to me really is, how do we create an educational system that is based on equity? If equity was our starting goal, what could we create that is a model that would help every student and indeed every person in the school system thrive? So if we think about that, I love to imagine education as an ecosystem. And in an ecosystem, everything has a different role to play, but each role is equally important. And in fact, they're interdependent. So in my classrooms, I always worked hard to make sure that each student knew what their role was and knew that they had something important to contribute to the good of the whole. And if they were absent that day, we were missing an important piece that they bring from their own perspective. So that really is an exercise in perspective taking, and that we need diversity and we need a whole lot of different perspectives to really create something that we can't create on our own. So the whole is greater than the sum of its parts is the way I love to think about education. And thinking about that at a classroom level, at a school level, and at a system-wide level, I think opens really exciting doors of possibility.
The book is An Illusion of Equity, The Legacy of Eugenics in Today's Education. The author is Berea College's Wendy Zagre-Warren. Wendy, thanks for your time.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking with you.